Hey y'all, welcome to Echoed Calls. My name is Joe Kimbrough and I write Christian stories. Writing Christian fiction is my imitation of Christ. Jesus told stories while he was on earth, and we call those stories parables. I want to follow in his footsteps with my stories. I hope that God uses my stories to echo his call in your life. By hearing his call, you can answer on your Christian path. We all have a different path, and we've all got steps to take on that path. But in this way, by hearing his call and you answering in your unique, particular way, we can live in God's beauty on our Christian journeys. You can view more content, stories, and whatnot on my website listed in the show notes. And on that website, I write reflections and a story on a theme each month. This month's theme is fear. There's a lot of fear going around right now. So I thought that was a good temptation to look at about how it isolates us from God by creating confusion and shifting the focus to us and away from God. So for today, I'd like to share that reflection with you. Let's reflect on a moment where I heard God's call in my ordinary life. I'm not looking for stories of epic proportion because I think our ordinary daily life is epic enough. After that, I hope to show what I pray is my unique answer and invite you to see God's beauty that comes from his call united with our unique answers. So subscribe today so that we can continue to explore God's beauty together. Without further ado, let's reflect on God's call in our fear. Okay, come on now. Let's just finish this. Nope. My eyes blur at the PDF on my iPad. Thoughts refuse any initial step. This hesitation takes me back to my first days of editing. In those days, I was mostly comfortable with the stories. And who wants to change from what's comfortable? Editing, must admit, needed change for my Christian story. Plus, my newness raised doubt about the skill for any meaningful change. You see, I feared the necessary changes and the mere possibility of change. Fear caused my delay in editing. Even now, with a solid editing process, I pause at editing time. A deep inhale clears the confusion over edits and raises a new question. Could our free time with God falter for similar reasons? Comfort with our Christian journeys might bring a fear of God's truth. This fear would mean unavoidable change for our Christian living. And again, who wants to change what's comfortable? Or perhaps we fear the possibility of change from the doubt of God's truth. In this way, we fear no fruitful change, so we do not enter our free time of listening to God like I avoid editing. We would avoid God's free time from our fear. My eyes snap back to the iPad. The black text contrasts vividly on the white page. I scroll to the last page, select my pen tool, and mark the document with all kinds of colors. Changes suggest themselves with every sentence. I find myself in the flow. The idea of the story bumps into the goal of readability. Each revision clarifies the story, and some edits add some drama. Now my attention bends back to the reflection on our Christian journeys. Faithful disciplines serve like my editing process. Our commitments to certain practices give us a starting point. We all get stuck from time to time. We face that hesitation. Our Christian exercises provide us the motions for overcoming our stumbles. Bible studies, Liturgy of the Hours, and the Lord's Prayer can be gateways to God's free time. Maybe we just make a start. Then God will do the rest. After all, showing up is at least half the battle. Well, look at that. God shows me his beauty through my editing fears. God calls us to free time in his presence. We are then left to answer. However, our fear gets in the way. God's truth brings the fear of critical change for our Christian journeys. We know God is true, but we're comfortable on our Christian journeys. So we fear making that change, moving from our comfort zones. Also, our doubts of God's reality creates the fear of possibly changing. Thus, we hesitate at God's call to free time. Yet, we find a start through our Christian disciplines. We go through those motions until God takes control. If we show up, He will dispel our fears. Then, He will bring us closer to Him. God's unusual call to free time joins a unique answer on our Christian journeys. This reflection inspires a story. How does this work closer to home? In our marriages, these same fears arise too. A husband plans a creative fifth anniversary. He considers every shared interest for the perfect vacation. But what will his wife think? You'll have to go to the website to read the story. Leave me a comment with what you thought about the reflection and subscribe so we can continue to explore more of God's beauty next month. And until next time, go with God, y'all.